who saw that one coming? So UFC 253 just happened, and it was indeed awesome. Had my doubts, but it all went well. It was definitely better than I thought it would be. I still think UFC was risking way too much by relying on the main and co-main events being spectacular. In a way, they succeeded, but in a way, they were also somewhat disappointed. But yeah, I think the whole event was really good. So unfortunately, I'm no longer the new Mystic Mac because my predictions weren't quite on point. They were definitely not as correct as they usually are. So yeah, sadly. But yeah, it's good that I didn't put any money on the fight. And so yeah, let's just jump into the whole event. Let's start with the co-main. So Jan Błachowicz defeated Reyes and became the new light heavyweight champion in the UFC, which is awesome. From the beginning, I thought that Reyes was being way too careful and way too cautious and scared to gas out. And in the middle of round one, I thought that would be the reason that he might lose. And as it turns out, he did. He got TKO'd in the second round. And when it comes to Jan's striking, you can't say that it's spectacular, you can't say that it's flashy, but it's efficient. He's not missing too many shots. He's not putting all his power, all his Polish power into the shots. But yeah, they're efficient. They're landing, and yeah, he's just even though I would say Reyes has the potential to be the more technical striker, but he just didn't get the opportunity to do that. He chose not to do that. Now, either that was a strategic choice or sort of unconscious decision is unclear. I saw Chael Sonnen's analysis of this fight, and yeah, he thinks that after the Jon Jones fight, where he went all 5 rounds, that this made Reyes sort of unconsciously want to preserve his energy, because yeah, obviously it feels awful to gas out, and Jan is a dangerous fighter. You really don't want to be gassing out before him. So yeah, I'm not sure if it was a strategic choice or not. I probably think that Reyes thought that he could outpoint Błachowicz and make him tire out and either win by decision or knock him out in the later rounds, 4 or 5. But yeah, obviously either he didn't expect the Polish power to be so strong, or yeah, you just didn't think that those body shots were brutal by Jan. So like he tried to preserve his energy, but after you take the shots that Reyes took, and you can see from the right side of his body was all red. All the shots were landing at the same spot. Like that will tire out you more quickly than you being dynamic, explosive, and trying to push the fight forward. But yeah, that was definitely Reyes' weak spot, just trying to save energy, and that was really unfortunate because he could be the more dynamic fighter. He could be the more explosive fighter. He just chose not to. And I really think if he were to approach the fight the way he approached Jon Jones' fight, he would have won. Now, I feel like against Jon Jones, it was more of a Hail Mary, because he was confident to an extent, but perhaps he thought that Jon Jones was way better than him, and he needed this explosiveness in the early rounds to win. And against Jan, as I said, maybe he thought he can just outpoint him, and yeah, that didn't turn out to be the best strategy. I think he'll return stronger than ever. He'll definitely know like a better balance in between all out, not caring about his cardio at all, and being way too cautious the way he was in this fight. And when it comes to the stoppage, I did think it was early at first, like most people did. But as you saw later on, Reyes was not protesting. He wasn't saying anything after the fight, and so obviously he didn't want the fight to go any further. So who are we to say that it was early? I really don't think it was. The referee did a good job, so good stoppage by him. And yeah, that was a cool fight. I thought that would be the boring fight of the evening, and as it turns out, it was one of the more interesting and cool fights. So yeah, I got both fights wrong. I thought this one would be boring, and I thought Izzy's fight would be spectacular, and they kind of got switched. So let's talk about Adesanya. He demolished Costa, and everyone should have seen that coming. I should have seen that coming. Some fans saw that coming. Most analysts, I definitely don't consider myself an analyst, but most analysts were picking Costa or saying it's a 50-50. And yeah, everybody really should have seen that coming. He surpassed everyone's expectations, as he always does. And I honestly feel bad for not picking Adesanya when it comes to the greatest of all times. When people have these discussions, they still are reluctant to pick him. Maybe they think it's too soon or whatnot. But yeah, his wins. If we want to compare him to someone like Jon Jones, and he's always the number 1 or 2 when people talk the greatest of all time, his wins, at least his recent wins, are way more impressive than Jon Jones. And the level of competition, his level of competition, I don't think anyone would argue that it's higher than Jon Jones. Simple as that. And yeah, due to the fact that he has way more finishes, they're way more impressive, and he just keeps on learning, just keeps on growing as a fighter, which is phenomenal to watch. So yeah, everyone should have seen that coming, but the UFC's marketing was way too good. The Costas, gimmicks and stuff, they worked. His scam hyped him up so much, and it made it seem like it was a 50-50 kind of match, which it obviously wasn't. He said it was he's gonna make it look easy, and he did, which was, yeah, even though it wasn't as spectacular as perhaps his fight against Gastelum, but just because he's a better fighter right now. And yeah, it was still awesome. It was still interesting from the first second till his TKO in round 2, where he even mounted Costa. So pretty good for a white belt. I'm not gonna get into too much about his right chest being lumpy. Let's just put it that way. There are people who analyzed it, and obviously we need more information to really understand why that really is. Now, when it comes to really educated people in this area, when it comes to, we're gonna have to talk about performance enhancing drugs, and the experts, so to say, in this field are saying that it's more than likely that he did use CDs, which is hard to believe just because the way Izzy is. Now, he was talking before the fight all the time about Costa being on something. Now, that could be like a defense mechanism or something that suggests no one would question him, because he usually doesn't focus on that fact and doesn't talk too much about it, which I still am on the fence whether he used something. I wasn't going to talk about it. I'm talking about it quite a bit. If you want to see sort of, as I said, an expert talk about this, go watch Greg Doucette's video on YouTube. He does all these natty or not videos, and yeah, he just looks at him as another person to analyze, and he came to the conclusion that it's 100% that he's on something, which is really, really unfortunate. I hope that we get more information, and that Adesanya was not just being, maybe he was just embarrassed because of some weird and awkward medical condition. Let's just hope that was the reason he had this very weird looking right back. So yeah, it still was an awesome fight. We're gonna have to get more information on that, and the fact that Izzy's fight with Romero was so deceptive, I would say, made this fight much more interesting. And it wasn't clear whether Izzy was being strategic or scared against Yoel. As it turns out, he was just learning, he was just getting used to these kinds of fighters, and yeah, he was just growing as a fighter. The matter of fact, I feel like the fight that he had against Romero, I think he learned a ton from it, and because it was boring, it just made Izzy think of how can I defeat these fighters that just have their feet cemented into the ground and wait for others to come in. He has the reach advantage, so he, like, why not just kick him and make him come forward, or just, you know, break his leg in that way. So yeah, he's a genius fighter, and usually I would really hate fighters who have, even like, most fighters don't have these weird things happen to them. They don't fail their tests, and yeah, there's nothing to really worry about. And when these things happen, I'm really skeptical. But I think this is one of the rare cases that that Izzy's win should not be downplayed, at least for the time being. And yeah, if he cheated, so to say, I think it's more of a thing of somebody in his camp giving him something, which I still doubt it. I hope, and I think it's more likely than it was some kind of weird medical condition. But yeah, his defensiveness seemed weird, because like I feel like you'd rather be somewhat embarrassed that you have this weird condition where you're making much more estrogen, you're low on testosterone for whatever. I mean, you're kicking guys' asses, you're going in the octagon, you're risking your life. Like, you're manly enough to perhaps have higher levels of estrogen. But yeah, that's all the information that we have for today, so we'll see. But yeah, in conclusion, yes, I do think Izzy should be in the consideration for the greatest of all time. I think he is better than Jon Jones. Now, that doesn't mean that he would beat him today, but I feel like he's smart and motivated enough to find a way to eventually destroy Jon Jones. Light heavyweight, heavyweight, middleweight. Like, he just, as we saw from this fight, it doesn't matter who he's fighting. Like, Costa was basically a light heavyweight in that fight, and that didn't change anything. So those are my thoughts. I'm curious to see what you guys think. What were your predictions? How right were you? And who do you want to see these guys fight next? That goes for Izzy, Jan, and what about Costa and Reyes? Let me know in the comment section down below. And alright, I see you guys later. Don't forget to subscribe, and bye.